phone.
naked?
He know how you are. We always on the
Everything you
phone.
say is a lie.
So wait a minute, Mr. Lewis.
When you out of town? Was you out of town?
Everybody has a
You was out of town.
plan.
How did I know you was out of town? Did you tell me? You not my Facebook
It's on
friend?
social media.
Delete them pictures off Facebook. Take my kids off Facebook. We don't want nothing to do with you because when I found out about my brothers and you denied my brothers to me. I don't have the money right now. Can you just wait? I could have waited. I already waited a year before my van got fixed and it's broke down again. Can you help me now?
Ms. Robinson and her mom, Mrs. Palmer, are here hoping to finally get some answers about who Ms. Robinson's father is. But Mr. Rollins, the man they believe is the dad, is straight up denying it. He's saying he's 1000% sure he's not the father. Not sure his math adds up, but we'll see if he's right.
Ms. Robinson, you and your mother have opened your case today in hopes of giving you closure.
Yes.
You say you've always known the defendant was your father and his denial has crushed you.
So according to Mr. Rollins, Ms. Palmer was busy with multiple men back in the day. And I'm pretty sure we all know that she wasn't exactly working. Ms. Robinson, on the other hand, is the real victim here. Let's see if she can finally get some answers.
So Ms. Robinson, explain, how has the feeling of denial affected you?
Your Honor, it affected me real bad. Like, I feel like that he wasn't responsible to even say I'm his daughter or not.
And so for 24 years, you've had to deal with this.
Yes, Your Honor.
I feel for Ms. Robinson. I really do. But how can we be sure Mr. Rollins is actually her father? And what's up with Ms. Palmer telling her daughter that a man who wanted nothing to do with her is her father?
So Mr. Rollins, you do not believe you are Ms. Robinson's biological father.
No, ma'am.
You say you're 1000% sure.
1001.
So Ms. Robinson, as you grew up, were you told his name?
As I knew him as Doobie.
What? Why would you put a little girl through that? I can only imagine what Ms. Robinson has been feeling all these years. Knowing your supposed father and finding out he wants nothing to do with you has to be painful on so many levels.
So after that encounter, how were you feeling?
I was feeling like that he did own up to nothing. Like, if you laid down with my mama, you should have just owned up, be like, oh, I could have been your daddy.
There's no telling who's in the wrong here. On one hand, Ms. Palmer is convinced that Mr. Rollins is Ms. Robinson's dad. The only problem is, she's never had him tested. And on the other hand, Mr. Robinson actually met his supposed daughter when she was 9 years old, but he didn't even consider the possibility that he could be her dad.
Do you remember a 9-year-old child saying to you, "Are you my daddy?" Do you remember that?
I remember a child observing me, but not
Okay.
coming to me and saying that you are my father.
Damn! We're barely 5 minutes in and things are already getting heated. Mr. Robinson is fired up, but always watch where you point your flame in Judge Lake's courtroom, because as Mr. Robinson just learned, you're the one who ends up getting burnt. Oh, and she's not done yet.
This is the issue here. Ms. Robinson is in court because she's trying to find her father.
That's why I'm
And
here.
you are in court because you admittedly slept with her mother.
Exactly.
Yes.
So much for 1000% sure. It's about time Mr. Rollins understood why he's standing in that courtroom. You're not here to spectate, buddy. You're on trial.
In her mind, when she came up to you and said, "You're my father," and you said, "No, I'm not," in her mind, that was my father rejecting me because it was all her mother ever told her, right?
Exactly. Ms. Robinson is the victim here, and in my opinion, she's the only one who has the right to be mad. Ms. Palmer and Mr. Rollins should just act like the adults they are and work towards finding out the truth. But from what we've seen so far, that may be a tall order.
But let me ask you this question, Your Honor.
Please do.
After the truth and everything, will the tables turn on her? The
Well,
mother,
no.
that's who I'm talking about.
No, listen.
You know what? Now, I'm looking like the deadbeat.
No.
You've got to love Judge Lake. Mr. Rollins looks like the kind of guy who wins every single argument he's in, but he's met his match today. Well, not really his match because, let's be honest, he just got bodied.
So now moving on,
I'm listening.
Mr. Rollins, that encounter where you saw Miss Robinson, what was your reaction once you saw her?
Honestly, I looked at her and I already knew.
Interesting. If Mr. Rollins is right, this case could get a whole lot messier. And did you just see the reaction from Ms. Palmer? For her sake, I hope it's confidence giving her all that sass, because those are the kinds of statements that make you look silly if you get caught lying.
Who are you talking about? What do you know?
The thing is, I can't prove it right now.
Okay.
But the only thing I can do is verbally tell you.
Verbally
that
stated.
she had multiple parts. She was multitasking.
No, I was not. You probably were multitasking. I know I would.
So Mr. Rollins is the father by process of Elimination? We'd take your word for it, Ms. Palmer, but after sitting through hundreds of cases just like yours, we know better. And as long as Mr. Rollins hasn't been tested, there's no way we can be sure he's the father.
So, Ms. Robinson, when was the next time you saw Mr. Rollins?
When I had added him my friend on Facebook and he accepted me, I texted him, I was like, hey, do you know who I am? He was like, yeah, years ago you mentioned to be my daughter.
Now wait a damn minute. That's not the kind of thing you just gloss over. What happened to onesies? Or a box of diapers? Hell, it might be too early, but even a backpack would be better than a freaking DNA test.
So,
He bought a home DNA test to your baby's first birthday?
yes.
That's because I was asked to bring it.
Who asked you to bring it? You had said to Mr. Rollins, and bring a DNA test.
Yes.
Because you wanted the answer.
Yes, Your Honor.
So, did you bring the test, Mr. Rollins?
Whew. I'm glad we got some clarity on that one, but I'm a little bit confused right now. Where the hell was Ms. Palmer when all this was going down? I mean, she's the one who should have been pushing for the DNA test, right?
At the first birthday, do you enjoy yourself, Mr. Rollins? Are you there like grandfather? What is the dynamic like at this party?
Basically the same thing it is now. It's like, you point me out truly and eventually they're gonna understand today I'm not that.
This guy is a riot. If he wasn't on trial for paternity, I'd have said Mr. Rollins is the kind of dad who lights up every birthday party, family gathering, and cookout. But here he is, denying a child that could be his. So I'm pretty sure that ship has sailed.
When he came there, they was in the kitchen talking, and he gonna say, "Let me see your feet." And he said, "Your mama been sleeping with a lot of men."
Could someone please remind Mr. Rollins that he's on trial? Because if I didn't know any better, I'd have thought he was practicing his new stand-up comedy routine. Anyway, I have no idea what he just said, but I might need to look it up.
And the other parties that I was
studying
speaking
her
upon,
feet,
yeah.
you discovered that.
Oh yeah.
And therefore, you came to the medical conclusion.
I know it's hereditary. I did a lot of research on it.
Okay, Mr. Detective, now we're getting somewhere. Granted, we still don't have any evidence, but with these new allegations, this case just got a whole lot juicier. I think you should expound on that, Mr. Rollins.
Yes.
How do you know she even was intimate with that guy?
That's what I want to know.
I observed it.
Whoa, excuse me?
Yes, I observed it.
Ooh, on the grass. Really, Ms. Palmer, you didn't make it to the house, let alone the bedroom. Of course, these are all still unconfirmed allegations, but damn. And also, is it just me, or did Ms. Palmer's body language just change?
Your Honor,
So you thought that was Miss Palmer?
I knew it.
Did you ever follow up with your partner, your associate, and say, were you with Miss Palmer as well?
Every night they had done a little thing, he would always come back and high-five me, telling me how much.
Mr. Rollins is looking less and less like the father now, which is saying something considering how shifty he seemed at the beginning of the case. Talk about a comeback. On the other hand, we're getting our first piece of evidence. Let's see if it can turn the tide.
And on the right is a shot of Mr. Rollins' mother. Beautiful
Oh
woman.
man, I never noticed that.
Beautiful picture.
Okay, baby.
So, Mr. Rollins, are you saying you see a resemblance now?
I mean, yeah, with the.
Kudos to Mr. Rollins for being honest, but can I say something? I really don't see it. Good thing I'm not the one on trial here, because things could have got way louder if I was Mr. Rollins. The emotion and tears on Ms. Robinson says it all. After experiencing so much denial, hearing Mr. Rollins acknowledging their resemblance has to be comforting.
Take a moment, Miss Robinson, and just look at Mr. Rollins and just talk to him about how you feel.
I feel like that I never had a father in my life, and my mama, she was always there for me.
How could you not feel sorry for Ms. Robinson? She's been through it all. And finally, she's standing right next to the man she's always thought was her father, ready to learn the truth. It's a good thing that the waiting is over, because it's about time we got the answer to this 24-year-old mystery.
Mr. Rollins, you are not the father.
It was just my mistake, but I know I didn't sleep with nobody else.
Well, we know that that's a lie.
Ms. Murphy feels betrayed. After a short, passionate relationship with Mr. Myles, she got pregnant, and Mr. Myles was nowhere to be found. Now, Mr. Myles is married and apparently wants nothing to do with Ms. Murphy and her baby. There's no way this ends well.
Ms. Murphy, you claim you had a short, passionate relationship with the defendant, Mr. Myles, and then you became pregnant. Now you say he's married and wants to forget he has a 3-year-old son.
Yes, Your Honor.
So before we even get started, there's a lot to unpack here. First, that age gap is pretty sus. Let's be real here. Denying a baby isn't the only crime Mr. Myles is guilty of. And second, did y'all just see Mr. Myles' occupation? The guy is a church minister, which makes this whole case even crazier.
Ms. Murphy, how has Mr. Myles participated in your son's life?
Your Honor, this man has not done anything for my son. I can count on one hand how many times he's ever even came to visit his son.
Ooh. Ms. Murphy is coming in hot with the bars. She's clearly frustrated, and it's easy to understand why. On the other hand, Mr. Myles has every right to believe whatever he wants to believe. But if the boy ends up being his son, he's going to look like the biggest douche on the planet.
This is exactly
He
what I
wasn't
told
willing to
her.
pay for the paternity test
And that's not
any
true.
other way. He said he didn't have the money for it. If that's the case, Your Honor, we would not be here. It would already been taken care of.
Okay, Mr. Myles, thanks for the testimony, but if I'm not mistaken, Hickeys have absolutely nothing to do with the fact that Mr. Myles might be a possible father. And I don't know about you, but Mr. Myles doesn't sound very believable right now.
Whether or not she was sleeping with anybody else?
Yeah, her family members told me specifically
The family members that you were sleeping with.
The family members told me that she was getting around. Family members told me that she was getting around.
The family members that he was sleeping with told
Miss
him that.
Murphy.
Now this, folks, is the classic case of the pot calling the kettle black. How in the world are we supposed to believe Mr. Myles' testimony when he just snitched on himself multiple times in a matter of seconds?
Besides, about the family part, I never knew that he was dealing with any of my family. That's ridiculous.
Were you dating, seeing Mr. Myles exclusively?
This is getting way too messy. Sleeping around with Ms. Murphy at her age was already criminal. Literally. I mean, I'm not sure how he's here in the courtroom and not in jail right now, but sleeping around with her relatives too, man. This guy has issues.
It's just that
the Hickeys on her. The Hickeys on her.
Never had Hickeys
Yeah,
before.
you did. Yeah, you
Okay.
did.
never had Hickeys.
Okay. The Hickeys on her
You
that
gotta have
come into
another
my
piece
house.
of evidence besides these Hicks.
Okay.
Potent. Well, that's a new one. And why is Mr. Myles so stuck up on those Hickeys? Because believe me, mister, if the only so-called evidence you can come up with is Hickeys and skimpy clothing, you might as well start paying child support right now.
I have not heard sufficient evidence to believe why you wouldn't think you potentially could be this beautiful young man's father. I'm waiting for the evidence.
Exactly. Mr. Myles hasn't presented a single piece of credible evidence since this case started. That hasn't stopped him from yapping, though. All he's doing at this point is getting on Ms. Murphy's nerves, and Judge Lake isn't having it.
Didn't make sense. Now you have a witness. I'd like to hear from her. Ma'am, please stand and step to the podium. Your name?
My name is Mrs. Myles.
Mrs. Myles, and you are Mr. Myles's
Wife.
If you thought this case couldn't get more complicated, you were dead wrong. Mrs. Myles just stepped in, and things are getting heated. I don't know how she can still stand by her husband in this situation, but you know what they say? Love makes you do crazy things.
If Miss Murphy would have thought that I was her son, Keeper would have told me before we even got together.
Not necessarily.
Like he told me about his other baby mamas. I know about them.
That's a weird way to look at things. How is it Ms. Murphy's responsibility to seek out Mr. Murphy's wife and let her know what's going on? And denying that the baby is Mr. Murphy's just because he didn't tell her about it is pretty insane too.
His father. You should have came to me and said, this is his son. If it is his, I want him to get in his life. I want him to get know his brothers.
Oh, wait a minute now,
but then
Miss
you
Murphy,
went on him so that you could be around him.
And boom goes the dynamite. The way things were going, it was only a matter of time before someone exploded in the courtroom. I'm just glad it was Judge Lake, because there's no telling what kind of chaos these three would cause if they got mad.
To be honest with his wife about the situations he's involved in when they meet and marry. Whether or not the paternity had been established, he still has to be honest and say, I potentially have an issue in my life.
After those stern but thoughtful words from the judge, I think we need some chill, positive vibes to calm everything down a bit. So it's a good thing that Ms. Murphy's witness is cool, calm, and collected. And it's an even better thing that he's raising this baby as his own.
I provided videos and everything to see how much a father he's been to this.
Mr. Narvaez, please explain the nature of your relationship with Takori.
That's so heartwarming. It's nice to see some positivity after what feels like hours of yelling and bad vibes. The fact that Mr. Narvaez has already stepped into his role as a stepdad sure says a lot about the kind of man he is.
Mr. Myles, as you look at those pictures of another man with a son that potentially be yours.
Well, Your Honor, honest opinion, that's fine and dandy that he is doing those things. That's great he is doing those things.
You won't.
No, it's not the fact that I won't.
The man has his faults, a lot of faults, if we're being honest. But it's good to hear that he's willing to be a part of Takori's life if the DNA test proves he's the dad. So what are we waiting for? It's time to find out the truth. Judge Lake, let's hear it.
Mr. Kiva, Myles, you are his father.
Thank you. I have no reason to lie. I have no reason to lie. No reason. No reason.
Ms. Hicks is here claiming that Mr. Smith is the father of her 3-month-old daughter, Honesty. But Mr. Smith is coming in hot, saying he can't be the dad because of a medical condition that makes him unable to have kids. And get this, Ms. Hicks's own sister, Quintara, is siding with Mr. Smith. This is about to get real spicy, I can feel it.
Ms. Hicks, you say the sins of your past have brought you into court today to save your relationship. You are petitioning the court for a DNA test.
Well, that's not something we see every day. Sisters on opposite sides of the courtroom? You already know this one's about to get nasty. And how does Ms. Hicks feel about all this? It must be terrible to have your own sister testifying against you.
So, Ms. Hicks, how does it make you feel hearing Mr. Smith deny paternity?
I know I've only slept with him, and I know who my children belong to.
Slow down, Carlicia. You could at least give us some time to prepare before you drop bombs like that. And it might just be me, but Quintara seems a little bit too aggressive towards her sister. I wonder what that's about.
So, Mr. Smith, you hear the allegations that have been stated thus far. This is what leads you to believe you are not the biological father of Honesty? Explain.
I used to work out a lot, and one time I strained myself too hard and I had to go to the hospital.
Ooh, sorry, buddy. That sucks for Mr. Smith, but if he's right, then this case is pretty much done and dusted. Judge Lake will need to see some evidence before she can validate his claims, though. I just hope we don't get to see it.
And this is what you were told by a medical professional.
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you inform Ms. Hicks about this when you all were in a sexual relationship?
No, Your Honor. He never informed me about any of this. When he did tell me, this came up like 2 months after Honesty was born.
Come on, Mr. Smith. That's the kind of information you lead with. And what was that scoff from Quintara? She's got some serious unresolved issues with Ms. Hicks, and it's hard to imagine how they can fix their relationship.
So, Mr. Smith, you seem confident. You say she knows good and well that it's not your child.
Yes, Your Honor.
And why do you think she knows that? If you say you informed her about the fact that you couldn't have children?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yep, I guess it's safe to say we all saw that one coming from a mile away. But considering just how much resentment Quintara has for Ms. Hicks, is she really a credible source of information?
I believe she did.
So, Ms. Hicks, you were the informant? You were the person telling Mr. Smith everything your sister was doing? Why would you do that?
Y'all don't know my sister like I do, okay?
To be honest, I actually feel bad for these two sisters. What the hell happened between them to cause such a huge rift? Oh, and Quintara saying the reason she acted as Mr. Smith's informant was because she felt sorry for him? I don't buy it.
She believes her own lies, okay? They come true in her head. I don't know
and
why
once
she do
again,
that,
I
okay?
guess you're there with me while I'm sleeping with these
Of
men.
course.
We having a wang dang, ain't it?
Yep, child wills. I be right there.
We threesoming now.
Finally, some solid evidence. Well, it's not the actual text, just a recollection of what Mr. Smith remembers seeing. Okay, so maybe it's not that solid, but hey, at least it's something. So Ms. Hicks, what's this we're hearing about a kitty?
Ms. Hicks, I have to ask you, did something similar to this come through your phone?
I don't even remember that text message, Your Honor. I honestly
I bet
do
you
not
don't.
remember
I bet
this
you don't
text
even remember
message
when.
whatsoever.
Your Honor, I bet you don't even remember when he went to his grandma's house because they got into it.
Those are some serious allegations, but still, where the heck does Quintara get her information from? Is she spying on her own sister? Well, whatever she's doing, it seems to finally be paying off, because that clearly got Ms. Hicks off guard.
Have you ever had occasion to witness firsthand the fact that she was with somebody else?
Yes, Your Honor.
That dude jumped out the window.
Thanks for pointing that out, Judge Lake. It's kind of hard to focus on Mr. Smith losing his keys when we could be talking about a man jumping out of the window. Want to explain that one, Ms. Hicks?
They on the second second floor. We live in an apartment building.
He jumped out
and
the
we
window.
stay on the second floor. So
he jumped out the window.
like himself, when he jumped out the window, like I expected that guy that he's...
Was Ms. Hicks cheating on Mr. Smith with Spider-Man? Because I'm not sure how anyone is jumping out of a second floor apartment window to hide. Like, what happened to good old-fashioned closets?
All right, take me to the point you realize you pregnant.
Mr. Smith, he came to me and said, I've been sick, I've been throwing up, and I've been feeling funny, so I think you need to take a pregnancy test. So he goes to the store and comes back with a pregnancy test that has 2 in a box.
I'm still trying to find out how Quintara ended up being Mr. Smith's spokesperson. Like, do you really hate your sister that much? And hold up. Where was the whole I can't have kids argument when Mr. Smith was celebrating about Ms. Hicks' positive pregnancy test?
So, Mr. Smith, you found out she's pregnant?
Yes.
Were you happy about it?
Faking it to her, but I know in my mind that
Faking it.
I can't have.
Oh, you were faking it to her?
Yes, Your Honor.
Faking it? That has to be one of the weakest arguments I've ever heard on this court. And naming the child. Come on, Mr. Smith. That's pretty much the daddest thing you could possibly do. I'm now convinced that Mr. Smith was sure it was his baby right up until Quintara started putting ideas in his head.
Do you have any other kids?
No, Your Honor.
You don't. So you believe it's the hypogonadism that contributes or has affected you so that you could not father any children?
Yes, Your Honor.
And now, it's time to address Mr. Smith's biggest concern, the medical condition that makes him unable to have kids. For obvious reasons, we're not going to get Quintara's opinions on this. Let's hear what the doctor has to say about all this.
All right, so now I want to understand, based upon his testimony, does hypogonadism affect his ability to have children conclusively?
There's a lot to unpack there. First, Mr. Smith's theory that he can't have kids has pretty much been debunked. And second, why is Mr. Smith parading baby honesty around his family if he knows she's not his daughter?
Why are you taking the baby around your family, Mr. Smith?
Because I raised her own son as mine, and I don't like people like that to be deadbeat.
So you say you're not taking her because you believe she's yours. You're taking her to be kind, and you would not want...
Yeah. Let it all out, Ms. Hicks. I can only imagine how it feels to have your boyfriend and sister team up against you, especially when you know you're right and they're wrong.
Why do you say it devastates you, Ms. Hicks?
Because it's coming from my full-blooded sister. We have the same mom, same dad. And I don't know why would this come from you anyway. As
because
close
I know
as we
what you
are,
do, Carlisha.
We're very close.
No way. These two are close. They must have a different definition of what close means because from the time this case started, Quintara has been at Ms. Hicks' throat. And judging from the way Quintara acts, I believe Ms. Hicks when she says she takes care of her like a child.
Yeah, and I love my sister. I really do. I truly love my sister. I go to the end if I have to. I would die with
Love
her.
is not trying to mess up someone's
I'm
relationship.
not trying to mess up your relationship.
I don't be in your relationship. You have no business in mine.
Judge Lake is right, sisters, and siblings in general. Fuss and fight every time, but going against each other in court, well, that's just a bit too much if you ask me. With tensions rising and the stakes at an all-time high, it's finally time for the results. So you might want to do what Quintara did and take a seat for this one.
Mr. Smith, you are the father.
Thank you so much, Your Honor. I'm so glad that I came here today to get these results so I can finally be at peace so me and my daughter can live with this man who I plan to marry someday.